Hi everyone, Red Licorice Review here to give you our breakdown of Macbeth at Utah Shakespeare Festival. I'm Val and I'm here with Alan. And this is going to be kind of our take, a little bit of a talk back of our experience. Um, if you want to read the full review, you can visit our website, redlicoricereviews.com. Um, But yeah, this is going to be kind of our high notes. So if you want kind of the overview, the TLDR, the play is amazing. It's dark, it's broody, it perfectly illustrates Macbeth's descent from heroic leader to a corrupted, power-crazed, paranoid ruler.
Yes.
This take is going to have a ton of spoilers. So not just the plot, which maybe isn't surprising since this play has been around for a long time, um, but there's just a lot about the design, lots of brags and shout outs to the artistic team and cast. So if you are one of those people who don't watch like movie previews because you don't want any part of the movie given away before you see it, then you should not watch this video. Um,
Not yet. Not
Not
yet.
yet. Yeah. So go see the play, then come back and watch this and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Um, we're going to be showing a lot of photos from the production. These photos are courtesy of the Utah Shakespeare Festival taken by Karl Hugh. See if it'll let me go to the next thing. So first off, set design. And just shout out to the director, John DiAntonio, who's probably always crazy busy in his role as artistic director of the festival. He's also directing and he's also playing Jack in Dear Jack, Dear Louise. So
I didn't know he was actually acting in one of the plays this year too.
yeah, yeah. So much talent at the Utah Shakespeare Festival. That's why you simply have to see more than one show. You cannot go to the Utah Shakespeare Festival and see only one show. Um,
True.
so yeah, so director John DiAntonio, um, set design by Apollo Mark Weaver. So I have to talk about Apollo. He was kind enough to be interviewed and let me know a little bit about his process, his approach toward this production and others. And one of the things that he said, I wrote it down, was that his design is the first thing to provide contextual information to the audience, which is true. As soon as you step into the theater, this is really the first thing that you see. Um,
Well, and
he
for like half an hour, like you walk in and you sit there and you're waiting for the play to start, and all you have to look at is the set. And so yeah, it sets the mood, before anything begins.
totally, it does evoke a mood immediately. Um, and he said the guiding idea for me here was that this place sits at the intersection of nature and nightmare. And you can totally see it in this photo. You have this large, like very natural looking wood structure. Looks like a tree, or maybe the woods is, if you're over on the right hand side. But there's something also very otherworldly about it.
It almost looks
So,
like the tree has sprouted legs, like insectile legs on the left-hand side.
yeah, yeah. So I think that it reminded me a little bit of the artist Dali, who who sometimes takes like really ordinary objects that are very familiar, but then they're just a little bit twisted, like the clocks that are kind of dripping off things. That tree kind of reminds me of that. So it's
Mhm.
kind of a tree, but also it's not quite right. It is a nightmare.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of Apollo Mark Weaver. I think his work is phenomenal. So he did the set design for all three shows in the Engelstad this season. He's done shows in the past. So pay attention. Pay attention.
And I'm always interested how they do this particular theater of all of the theaters because it has so much structure in it that's built in. So, the railing, that whole balcony area, all the doors, there's like six doors that are like built in constantly, that staircase that's on the left, like that's just always there and they can't move that. And so how they dress this particular set, how minimalist they go versus how extravagantly they redesign. Like I feel like last year, Midsummer Night's Dream, was it last year or 2 years ago? Um, I get them all mixed up.
Yeah.
But they really dressed that set far more extravagantly, and it suited that play. And I think in this case, um, I think the more minimalist design actually suits the play, and the fact that they have to kind of accommodate so many different sets, so many
Yeah,
different
the shows
locations.
alternate. The shows
Yeah.
alternate nights. So
Well,
they're,
I just meant, I mean, within this play,
oh,
like,
yeah, yeah.
because, they're in a castle, they're in the woods, they're on a battlefield, and so to try to capture all of those with one static set that's not flying up and flying down and having things move, pushed on and off, it's just static for the whole play. Um, Anyway, so I'm always interested in this particular theater because it doesn't have the ability to do all of those things. How they dress this one. And like I said, because they don't have curtains, you're just sitting there looking at the set for half an hour before the play starts. And so I think it also, again, it's even more like tone setting than a lot of
Yeah.
sets for plays.
Yeah. I think so too. And yeah, it does blow my mind that the shows alternate. So they are taking these massive sets down and putting them back up all the
We were
time.
trying to figure out how this tree either came apart or how they got it through the door into the back.
Yeah.
It's so massive. Like how does it move?
Yeah. And actually, I now have a new theory unrelated about moving it. I just thought of this today. This did not occur to me when we were sitting there watching it. But if we look at this kind of wood tree structure, I kind of think maybe the structure itself illustrates the whole plot. So if you start on the left-hand side, this is wacky. I do not know if this was part of Apollo's vision, but just go with me.
Could be subliminal. It could
It
be like
could
it's
be, right?
unconscious.
So if you interpret the left-hand side of that giant wooden structure as like the tree's roots, like Macbeth has roots. He has roots. He was related to royalty, right?
Hmm.
His grandparents were kings. Um,
His
but
father. Yeah.
yeah, but his root structure is unstable. So even though he grows and he grows and he's strong and he's powerful, he falls. He falls hard, but these new trees sprout out. And so that could be like we know that Macbeth falls and Fleance becomes king, and then Fleance father's kings, right? So his descendants become kings, and so that is what the trees sprouting out on the right hand side could be Macbeth falling, and then Fleance and his children and grandchildren.
As you're describing that, I'm starting to see it almost looking like a wave crashing and the surf, spraying up on the right hand side. It
Yeah.
kind of has that. That's interesting.
Yeah. I do think whether he intended any of those things or not, that is art. That is Apollo's art that gives us as audience members, as viewers, something to really chew on, something to try to interpret and to draw meaning from. So I love it.
I
Big fan.
also I'm for those of you who this is your first video with us, you should go back and watch. We have two other videos about Macbeth. One about the historical Macbeth. You can learn about the differences between the historical Macbeth and the one in the play, but also some of what Val was saying about his background, having a grandfather that was a king and his father was a king. But also, we had one where we looked at a bunch of different plays different versions of this, and I won't go too much in that, but there was one version that I thought brought in the weird sisters far more than the others. I think that was the Patrick Stewart version. They were kind of always in the background, right? Weren't they were like playing characters in the background constantly. So they were like always there and always present. And I'm looking at that structure on the balcony that very much feels like it represents the Weird Sisters. It's kind of like a hut, kind of a mystical hut kind of vibes to it. And it's always present. It's always there. So even when they're not on the set, you're still getting that vibe and their effect on all the events that are happening. And it's always visible to us, even when they're not present on the stage. So it kind of makes me think about that.
For sure. And they are often up there. There aren't a lot of characters that do go up there.
Right.
So it is a really cool place for them to kind of be observers and maybe kind of implicating that like they're around and they're pulling strings, but they're not
Mhm.
always directly in the action. Yeah, I like that. All right, let's look at the opening scene. So this is the opening scene. This is a photo of the opening scene. It's very somber. There's nobody speaking. We do get the feeling, you could maybe tell just from the image, that this is a funeral, but nobody says that. But that does look like a dead body. So you could probably guess. If you have never read the play or seen other adaptations, this might be hard for you to interpret. Like you're like a funeral, but you don't know who that is. You don't know why everybody's sad about it. You don't know what is going on. We we did see an adaptation. We were a little bit prepared for this because we did see an adaptation with Michael Fassbender that started with the funeral of Macbeth's child, which was one of our favorite adaptations.
Mhm. See our
Um,
video on all the adaptations we watched.
yeah, so check that one out. But in the play, if you read the play, Lady Macbeth makes references to like motherhood and like a child, but you just never see their child in the play. And so I do like that they started this way. It just contributes a little bit more to that storytelling, gives them a little bit more it gives us an explanation maybe on why they might be feeling a lot of emotions and why they might be a little untethered through the plot points that happen after this.
Well, and susceptible to temptation about their own legacy, because their legacy in their child has been interrupted now, or has been not interrupted, has been taken away from them, and so now they are both going to be more hyper aware of, well, what are we leaving behind? What effect are we having on this world? And then that's where the temptations set in.
Right. It's critical. It becomes even more critical because they've taken such a big loss.
Mhm.
So it is one of the things that makes this production really special, I think.
I also want to say something else now that when I'm thinking about this, and maybe you'll mention this later too, but something else that's special about this particular theater is it's outdoors. It's a reproduction of the Globe Theater. It's outdoors, and the play starts at 8 o'clock Utah time in the summer, wherein it's still light. So the light you're seeing here is mostly natural light. And so while, this scene being played in bright light maybe doesn't convey the somberness of the scene so much, but I do think, you know, as they have to plan the lighting, they have to plan the thing, they have to take account for how it's going to get darker throughout the play. And in this particular play, I mean, that almost suits it, right? The natural lighting declines the further we go down the descent of Macbeth and his wife. So it would end up being really interesting for this particular performance how the natural light, plays a role in the the lighting design.
Yeah, which I think says a lot about the production team for sure, the lighting designer, because that is something they have to work with. They have to work with it. And being able to make such a stark contrast between the beginning and the end is an artistic choice, and they do it exceptionally well. I agree.
Also, as an actor, would you be nervous every time you walked over the trap door in the middle of the stage that opens up later and things, enter and leave through there? I don't know. Be like, are you guys sure you braced it?
Right. Hopefully somebody checks it before every show.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the two leads. So these are two very strong performers that are returning to the Utah Shakespeare Festival. We've seen them and loved them before. I loved Walter Kmiec in Much Ado About Nothing. He was brilliant in his comedic timing and his chemistry with other characters. So when I saw, and we mentioned this in another video, but when I saw that he was cast as Macbeth, I was like, ooh, that's gonna be
Right.
weird. Because he's so good at funny, and he doesn't get to be funny in this one at all. But as you can see from the photos, I mean, he's got it.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. And same thing with Cassandra. She can do anything. She can do anything. And she's stunning, and she goes through the full spectrum of emotions in the show. It really shows off her skills.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Walter, I mean, he just became an instant favorite last year. Was a little I hope I get the name right. Melinda Parrott. I think that was the woman who played opposite him in um it's very close if that's not her name, and I apologize. I wasn't ready to give her a shout out, but she and Walter were so amazing in Much Ado About Nothing that like I don't know. We walked out of that and said that might have been our favorite live Shakespeare we've ever seen. And it was mostly because of those two actors. And so when we saw that Walter was back this year, we were very excited. But like you said, this is a very different role than what he played last year. So, I had confidence he could pull it off, but it's a little bit like the Heath Ledger, when he got cast as the Joker, and everybody's like, I mean, he's a great actor, but can he pull that off? And then of course he nails it, right? And then, I mean, Walter's the same way in this performance. Yeah, he's just such a natural Shakespearean actor. Like he's one of those people that when he's on the stage and he's speaking the lines, you would why wouldn't you say that? But this is exactly just natural right off of his tongue. So yeah, he's fantastic. And Cassandra's the same way. She's she's brilliant.
Yeah, they're both fantastic in this show. Okay, we've got the Weird Sisters. We knew that there were going to be weird sisters floating in and out. We weren't sure how much they would be in, like you
Mhm.
said. How much would they be in the background? How much would they be on stage? Um, and I really liked how much time they had on stage and like you said, in the periphery.
Mhm. I liked the set, and just to speak back at the set design, that the little drapes that dropped back here when he saw it was a quick and easy way to, create the scene, the setting for them, without, any kind of major alters. So they're always so clever with how they use the stage in this particular theater.
Yeah. Like you said, it's just a couple of things and they have completely transformed the the castle or where they were before,
Mhm.
or even just the woods in general, into now a witch's lair
Yeah.
with just a couple of things. One thing that I really loved too, in addition to the set design, was the costuming of the witches. So I love how connected the set design and the wardrobe here of the witches is connected to nature.
Mhm.
So we have a lot of grays, a little bit of it looked green to me on stage, like their sweaters have a little bit of green gray to them, very earthy color. And then you can see on their heads they've got plants, they've got feathers, they've one looks like animal horns. Um, so they really look like they've just come from nature
Right.
and that they're very connected to nature. And one of them, I think it was Kayland Jordan's witch, who was like wearing like a string with bird wings on it, and then she like pulls them off and uses them during the show, which
Right.
was cool. Like, not only does it add to her look and her characterization, but it's a prop that she's going to actually use, which was really fun.
Yeah, I liked that even all of their ingredients, they really for the potion they sold like they go around collecting these and they wear them on their persons. It's not like, they pulled out a bag and had all of the different ingredients. Each one of them was sort of adding from their own stashes.
Yeah,
Uh,
felt really organic.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, Blake Henry.
Love this guy. He's awesome.
Yeah, so another actor, another returning actor who has caused us to break into fits of laughter in previous shows. He gets to play the porter in this show, and has a really funny moment interacting with the audience. And that's, I think, traditionally played similarly. Like, there is a moment kind of before the darkness
Right.
truly takes over, there's this moment of lightheartedness, of drunken silliness, really. Um, and so he does a great job with that. But he does play other characters.
Yeah, he does. He plays multiple characters, and they are polar opposites. Um, and a lot of the adaptations we've seen um, play this where the porter also plays Satan, and they are very, very different characters. Um, so it's sometimes I remember the first of the adaptations we saw that we show in the other video. It was the one with Patrick Stewart starring as Macbeth. I was confused when Satan appeared and it was just the porter. It looks like I was like he made his porter his like second in command. Like it was very confusing to me. So it's an odd, I guess, choice that they have, but I mean, it makes sense for when they appear in the play. Um, but he plays both parts brilliantly. We've mostly seen him in comic roles.
Yeah.
2 years ago, we saw him in The Play That Goes Wrong, which was one of the most historical plays I've ever seen in my life, and he was one of the leads in that and was brilliant. Although I guess he did play in A Raisin in the Sun and had a more somber role as well. But then last year he was the police chief in Much Ado. And I think he was in a different play last year, but now I can't remember what his second role was because usually each actor is like cast in multiple plays.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. And I also get the years confused.
Yeah.
But he's
But
fantastic.
yeah,
And you'll see, if you love him and you're always looking for him, you'll see that he does change roles, but they help to make those shifts visually,
yeah,
by what he's wearing. And then, I mean, he is a very different person, and you'll notice that in his expression, in his manner. Um, it gets really dark.
yeah.
So enjoy the funny parts and appreciate the scary parts, I guess.
This is my favorite portrayal of the Porter that I've ever seen, though. Felt the most natural. He was just so at ease ad-libbing with the audience. Um, yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, he did a great job. Okay, let's talk about Banquo for a moment. So Banquo, played by Chauncey Thomas, also an incredible returning member to the festival. Um, his role, I think, was particularly challenging, um, because he starts out and he's such a pal. He's a best friend, and he's very jovial. He's very uplifting. He's always trying to help Macbeth and help him feel better. And it's so important for the plot of the play that he be so obviously innocent for what ends up happening to him.
Right.
But then once he's murdered, like we get to see him on stage again, whether he's maybe a ghost or he is a figment of Macbeth's imagination. It's hard to be certain because no one else can see him.
Right.
But now there's nothing happy or jovial or funny now. And he does such a great job of just being very imposing and spooky. And you can tell that Macbeth is terrified of him. They have this great chemistry together on stage, even though everyone else looks completely oblivious.
Well, one of the things with this scene is it could, like, if you kind of describe it, you're like, there's going to be a guy walking on tables and turning over cups and, drinking from people's cups and, you know, doing all of these things and appearing and disappearing. And there's going to be a guy, only one person can see him and nobody else. Like, it almost sounds comical. And you could mess this up pretty easily, I think, if it's, if it doesn't, if everything's not just perfect. And it was perfect. I mean, Walter plays completely terrified. Everybody else completely ignores Banquo on stage.
Mhm.
Um, Chauncy is, you know, get just all over the set, all over the things, and he looks very intense, and he keeps that intensity even as he's doing things that might otherwise seem silly, but they don't seem silly because of, like you said, just how committed everyone is to this, portraying this illusion. So,
And it's silent is the other thing that gets me.
mhm,
He doesn't get to scream or yell or grunt
right.
or anything. It's just silent. It's so unsettling and
Mhm.
haunting. He was amazing.
Chauncey was Oberon, right? In Midsummer.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
And then the king, right? Because he's like the king and then he's also Oberon, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Macduff's
Oh, was he in
family.
Winter's Tale too? Was he also the lead in Winter's Tale last year? Because Midsummer
Oh
was
my
2 years ago,
gosh.
I
We
think.
should have looked this up.
I'm pretty sure he was the lead in Winter's Tale, right? The king in Winter's Tale who kind of
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah,
I
who's
don't
the
know.
worst?
I'm pretty sure that was him too.
Yeah, we should have looked it up. He's done a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Another
stays
person we
busy.
look forward to seeing when we see that he's in the plays because he's brilliant. Um, Another person, like I said, just true Shakespearean actors who are fantastic. Just they bring the words to life. But everybody knows that Shakespeare is hard to read, but when you see it performed and you have actors of this quality like Chauncey, it it just feels natural, and the language is just makes sense in what they're saying and what they're trying to convey. They do fantastic.
Yeah, it's always outstanding. And here we have a group of actors outstanding as well as the Macduff family. So we have Macduff's wife, we have his their two children. Um, they are adorable. They bring a lot of that cute kid energy to the production in the earlier scenes when they appear. They're cute, they're playful, they're happy. They act like real regular kids, which is funny that even in medieval, like there's not a lot of difference between kids today and kids in medieval times. They're still just running around having a good time.
When
Um,
Kathryn had great rapport with them, you could believe that she was a mother figure to them. Um, it didn't seem awkward, like the kids, and they got along great, and she was fantastic
I
with them.
really like how they played this scene. Because in some adaptations it gets weird because she's talking how easy it is to buy a new husband. Like their
Right.
dad's gone, you don't have a dad anymore. What are we gonna do? And they're all very playful with it.
Hmm.
And just they're just being imaginative and joking and it felt really natural and not weird at all like some adaptations were
Yeah.
really weird.
Yeah.
But unfortunately this beautiful cute adorable family photo does not last, right? So if you already know the
Mm.
story, They're all going to get murdered horrifically.
By Blake Henry.
I know that was the most shocking part of all was that like it was hard. It was really hard to watch Banquo go down. That was
Uh-huh.
brutal. But when it's like violence against children, that's just even heavier.
Right.
And when you see Blake Henry and you're like, oh no. But he has great timing with the kids. I mean, it's really hard to portray violence against children on a stage in a way that's not horrific and doesn't actually traumatize the young actors. And
Right.
I think they did a fantastic job of balancing that.
Yeah.
He must have the most great like rapport with them. Like they just must have so much trust built up because he's able to interact with them in ways that could be scary, but it's not.
Right. We mentioned afterwards where even, they always carry the bodies off whoever they kill. They drag them off stage or they carry them off. The person never just like gets up and walks out like, changes scene. Okay, we know he's not dead. It's just an actor. They always sell it. They take the body off stage. So when he's take carrying the kid's body off stage, he just reaches down and like grabs them essentially by like a suspenders and just like carries him like a duffel bag off the set. And I mean, it's not meant to be funny, but I do feel like it's almost it just lightens it somehow. It just makes it like they're having fun. The kid is probably like,
He does such a good job
yeah,
holding completely still and
yeah,
being like a limp rag doll.
yeah,
Such a good job. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those moments where you're like, that murderous servant of Macbeth has lost his entire humanity by like murdering a child and carrying him away like that. But also on the other hand, you're like, these two are probably trying so hard not to laugh right
yeah.
now.
It's just kind of a funny way to carry him too. Like
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. All right. Okay. Hecate or Hecate, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to say it both ways the whole time because I've heard it differently in different places. She was not on my bingo card for this year's Shakespeare Festival. So, in our preparation for this season, like I read the play and we watched several adaptations. So, when I read the play, I noticed that there were lines for Hecate. But when we watched the adaptations, no one included her, including like I watched a version from like the Royal Shakespeare Company, and they did not include her. So in my mind, I guess I was just like, there will not be Hecate. I don't know. I just like nobody had ever done that. And I looked into it. I think that there's some speculation as to whether a co-author of Shakespeare added her in. And maybe her existence in the play was not truly Shakespeare's idea. And it's speculation, so I don't know. It's probably people feel many different ways about it. So it was just a shock to me. It was a surprise. And it was the most incredible surprise. I think the incorporation of Hecate, I think, is one of the things that makes this production so special and an absolute must see.
agreed. I want to point out just set design, lighting design here again. Look how different the whole set looks, just the way they've lit the tree. It doesn't look like a tree anymore. It just takes you to a different place.
Yeah, it really does. Um, and you can just tell Mark Apollo Mark Weaver's hand like in the design of Hecate's wings. If you saw Winter's Tale last season and you remember the bear, you can kind of see some, I don't know, some DNA in common there
Yeah.
where they're very rustic, they're very large. They have to be handled by multiple minions. In this case, they call the handlers minions.
Mhm.
Um, and I love his work. I think it's so fantastic. And these large wings, they are so expressive and show so much of what is happening. It was just such a fantastic concept. Really just such a treat.
I feel like this photo even doesn't even convey the scale that they are. They look even larger in person when they're just taking up the entire stage. Um, it's hard to get a perspective of how large they really are in this photo.
Truly, truly. And also like the movement is incredible. Like there are some kind of joints and the way that this team moves together, they move like wings, and it's really impressive. Caitlin Wise, who plays Hecate, is also playing Louise in Dear Jack, Dear Louise. So it's I don't know how she does it. I don't like she'll come to this show and there's like a lot of yelling and a lot of screeching, and I don't know how she cares for her voice in such a way that like tomorrow she's Louise and a totally different person, totally different role.
I did notice she's one of the people who was really mic'd up because her voice went through like some audio transformation, I think, through the speakers. Um, so I'm hoping that it sounded like a really loud screech, but maybe she was not screeching that loud and it was enhanced by the microphones. I don't
I
know.
hope
But
so.
I had, I had the same thought. I was like, how is she gonna be able to speak tomorrow after the way she screamed?
Right. Yeah, right. So go see her in both shows so you can see the range of her abilities. So amazing. Okay, Fleance is another tricky character, right? With Banquo, because even less speaking lines, right? And you have to see the transformation from this carefree child, this fun father son relationship, and then transition into a character who's now standing very tall and very stoic and very regal as the future king and going to be the father of other kings. So very similar to Banquo, she's got her work cut out for her because everything has to be expressed through her movement, through her face, because she doesn't get to say a lot. I just think it's so impressive. And she's also in Antony and Cleopatra. So it's fun to see her. Okay, we're getting toward the end of our review here. This is some of the final scenes right here. I actually have this slide on here twice. So one without anybody's name on it, just for us to kind of take in for a minute, and then the next one will have everybody's name on it. Just because in this photo, taken by Karl Hugh, which is amazing, the composition of it, I mean, there's so much happening here. It's just jam-packed full of everything that's going on and everything that's contributing to this moment, the violence and the expression of it.
Well, and going back to what we said before about lighting, where it's now dark outside at this point in the play, because again, it's outdoors. So now they can light these scenes so differently than they would be able to light scenes early in the play. So you've got this, deep red under lighting. You've got the purple in the background. So the lighting can really take center stage in these climactic scenes and help drive the emotion of them.
It does drive the emotion, and it's like you kind of said already, it's such a stark contrast to the beginning. I think also in addition to the light design, it's also the sound design because we start in that opening scene, it's very bright, but it's very somber and it's very quiet. in contrast to the end that is the opposite of all of those things. It is now very dark. It is very chaotic. It is very noisy. There's all different kind of sound happening. And so, yeah, that's just part of the fantastic storytelling that always impresses me. This whole team, the whole production team, the cast and the crew come together for this composition. You can even see like Hecate is in the back. You can see
Mhm.
her wings. You can't see her in the photo, but she's here. So we have these two actors, and you can see even the sweat pouring down Lavour Addison's face, like, and his expression is everything. We can't see Walter's face as well, but like you can tell from his body that this fight is not going well. The
He
choreography.
kills him with his own weapon.
Right, right. That which, yes, the choreography was brilliant. The fight choreography. So I have to give a shout out to Geoffrey Kent, who I neglected to point out on any of the other slides. So he's another figure who's been an essential person at the festival for a long time. He, I think he does fight choreography for all three Shakespeare shows and has before too. And he is in this show, and I didn't point it out at all. Sorry, Geoffrey. And he's playing Antony in
Mm,
Antony and Cleopatra.
wow.
Yeah. So he's amazing. The fight choreography here was everything. It has to go down, and it has to go down violently. And it's perfect. Let's flash the
Did he do
names.
fight choreography last year for the Shakespeare plays? The
I
ones in
didn't look it
Maine?
up, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Because I mean, over the last couple of years, we've always been impressed with the fight choreography over in. Yeah, am I saying is it Ains? Well, no. What's the other? What's the small theater? Is it the Ains?
The small theater is the Ains, yeah.
Okay, because they have to do pretty elaborate fighting in such a tight quarters and with the audience right on top of the sets that they obviously have to do it safely and they can't um, exceed the boundaries of the area that they're in, but they make it still feel epic. And like Coriolanus was really impressive, and
Coriolanus was
ooh,
scary too.
yeah, what was the one about Venice where then there was like scenes out in the woods?
Timon of Athens.
Hymen of Athens.
Which one were you thinking of?
No, they um
Oh, Cymbeline?
Cymbeline. Yep, Cymbeline.
Yes.
Because that had some pretty impressive sword fighting and spear fighting and things that were all in those tight quarters. So
Yeah, they pull it off. They can pull it
mhm.
off in every location. Yeah, I do feel like we got either blood spatter or sweat spatter in Coriolanus because it was
Yeah,
so, which just made it so real and so crazy.
I know.
So
Yep.
it was amazing.
I did
Um,
mention like here he's killing him with his own axe, and I think that's very poetic because Macbeth brought about his own downfall, and so being killed by his own weapon here. I wonder if that was a conscious choice, um, or just how they decided to do the fight is just kind of an interesting fight mechanic.
yeah,
But
no, I'm sure you're right. It's so poetic. How could it not be intentional? Yeah, definitely part of the art. Absolutely.
you also mentioned that Hecate's in the background. How did you feel it changed the any of the tone or message or takeaways from the play when she was included versus the adaptations when we didn't see her included?
That's such a good question, and I am still stewing on it a little bit because I think when she's there, it does feel like more like what happens is more fated and maybe unavoidable. If it's fated, it's unavoidable, right? And then in this final scene, especially, and she's such a presence that it feels like she's the puppet master. But when other people do this show and she's not there, then it makes it feel like this was more of Macbeth's doing himself, like his bad idea, his action. his choices.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I mean, in both cases, he's getting prophecy, and both cases, the prophecy is what's motivating him to do his actions. So you could always ask that question of like, without the weird sisters or Hecate interfering and telling him these things, would he have gone through these same steps? Maybe he would have, but maybe not, or maybe at least not right away. What role do they have in his actions? But when it's just the weird sisters, I do think it feels a little bit more like they're just seeing the future and telling him the future. And even though whether what they're seeing or what they're saying is not completely black and white. Like it can be interpreted, and obviously he interprets some of it incorrectly and thinks he's invincible because of what they say. But it just feels like they're just telling the future a little bit more. Whereas, like you said, when Hecate comes in, she feels like she's intentionally doing things to bring about the ending that she wants or that is supposed to happen. So yeah, it feels more fated, which I don't know if that takes a little bit of the like well, but she's not the one who sets in motion. It's almost like she comes in as a correction. Like she's mad that the weird sisters have set in motion these actions of his when he wasn't supposed to do these things. So she has to come in and like course correct. That's kind of what it feels like. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
And
just a little different feeling.
yeah, and then I think an additional layer on top of that, no, whichever way you decide kind of to feel about it, there's another question I have, which is like, how does that change the way you feel about Macbeth? And how does that change the tragedy of it? Like, is it more of a tragedy one way or the other? And I don't know.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, I'm sure there's been a lot of movies that are essentially Macbeth, but without the weird sisters. But it would be interesting to think how you would rewrite the play, but taking out any of the fates and, rewriting it as just pure greed and motivation from Macbeth's point of view. Um, because even the presence of the fates at all, the weird sisters, um, just them being there alone sort of takes a little bit of the it doesn't take responsibility for away from what he did, but maybe just like 1%, you know? Yeah. Like
Yeah.
he and Lady Macbeth still set all this in motion and they still did everything because they were tempted. And we know that Banquo tells him early on, he's like, hey, like, why do you look so shocked to hear this? This is something I know you kind of want. So, but if that's the case, like you could see a version of this that doesn't have the weird sisters where it still plays out the same way. Um, so like I said, I don't want to alleviate him of any guilt, but I think the presence of Hecate pushes it further into this being like the fates he's fated, or it's just these actions were brought about because of fates playing around with humans,
Yeah.
which is more of the theme of like Midsummer Night's Dream and stuff, right? It's like,
It's just similar. Yeah, very similar. Okay, here's our final slide. And this is kind of an ending moment of the production as well. And it's just a fantastic taste of like everything that's going on. These kind of all of these plot points are now aligned. Like, as we have King Duncan's son here, center stage. We have Macduff. He's still like, look at him. He's still fierce. He's still on fire. He's still yelling in the background. We have Fleance up top getting crowned by the fates. And so it's just a fantastic tie together of everything that's been going on.
can I say one thing? I'm a little disappointed here because when we saw the version with Patrick Stewart, they had a dummy of Patrick Stewart's head that they pulled out of a bag or that they lifted up, right?
That's
I,
right.
I was a little disappointed they didn't pull the dummy of Walter's head out of the bag.
I
You know,
I can live without the head in a bag.
I'm just
Without
kidding.
seeing the head. I mean, you can see the bag.
I know, I know.
I can,
I'm mostly just kidding. I don't really want to see Walter's head, but
but
I
yes.
thought he might. I thought he was going to do it when he brought that bag in. I was waiting for it, but
Oh man.
I'm kind of glad they didn't. I'm mostly just kidding.
That is funny though. Yeah, so it's a fantastic end to the, I guess I shouldn't say fantastic end because it's really sad in a variety of ways, but like it's great punctuation,
Mhm,
right? A great final picture that you get to see like this is the end, but also this isn't over.
mhm.
So outstanding, outstanding cast, outstanding artistic team. Go and see all the shows. Go see them
Yeah,
all. They're all
yeah.
fantastic. Um, and
And
if
one
you,
more self plug. If you are curious about why Shakespeare was so interested in making sure that this play ultimately was about Banquo and his lineage being kings and sires of kings, um, see our video about the historical Macbeth, because we talk about that.
yes, check out, yep, the history of Macbeth and check out our review of the other adaptations.
Yes.
All right. Happy Shakespeare summer, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Bye.